Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session on useful documentation skills for employee behavior and performance. We're so excited to provide information on the do's and don'ts of documentation for everyone. My name is Izzy, and I am the Marketing and Client Care Coordinator at Lightwork Software, but I also handle a lot of our internal employee communication and wellness. I love working with my coworkers, and I want to ensure that they have the best work environment possible so they can succeed not only professionally, but also personally. This webinar, we're going to go over some of the best practices and give some tips and documentation, and I hope that everyone will find some great tools to add to your managerial toolbox for the future. With that being said, I'm going to turn it on over to Morgan, who is my awesome coworker. You are up, Morgan.
Thank you, Izzy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Morgan Lacey, and I'm excited to have you here today to review some of the effective ways to document employee behavior and performance. Just a quick agenda for us here today. We're going to talk about why it's important to document employee performance, as well as the details that you should include when documenting discipline. I will also review some of the tools that Lightwork provides that allows employees and managers to document and track employee performance. Rating an employee on their performance should be based off of the employee's visible behaviors and documented efforts. I think that everyone here can agree that being rated on your performance at your current or previous job, it's always nice when leaders take all of your efforts into consideration, whether that is that you're reaching your goals or have maybe surpassed them. But relying on managers and leaders to remember all of the circumstances surrounding every instance of misconduct or achievement for each employee is unrealistic. Investing in tools for managers to document their employees' performance allows performance ratings to be based on the entire review cycle and not just what the reviewer can remember. The recency error is a common rating error amongst managers that don't have access to tools that they need to track and monitor employees' behavior and performance. Being able to reference employees' year-round performance when rating them allows for more effective feedback from leaders. As much as we would all like documenting performance and behavior to be positive, the reality is that sometimes documentation can be the details and the facts presented for the termination of an employee. So whether you're documenting good or bad behavior, it's important to gather details for managers and leaders to reference if necessary. And with that, I want to cover some of the basics that should be captured when documenting discipline when faced with employee misconduct. I do want to mention that when documenting employee discipline, it is important to keep the documentation based on the behavior and not the person. When summarizing the details of the incident, companies should describe what the visible actions were, not the personal details about the person taking the action. The first step in documenting misconduct is identifying all that were involved and notating their first and last names. You should also include witnesses if it's applicable. Next is noting the time and the place that the incident occurred. This information can be crucial when documenting a policy or rule that has been broken. It allows leadership to determine what else might have been occurring or any other environmental details that might need to be taken into consideration. Next is ensuring that the documentation identifies what rule or policy was broken. This step is what allows leadership to take action based off of known expectations that were not met. I do want to note that it's important to ensure all policies and rules are readily available for employees to access and reference. Without that, employees can dispute that they were not aware of the rule or policy, and therefore should not take any accountability for their actions. After summarizing the misconduct, it should also be noted what disciplinary action was taken at the time of the event. Verbal and written warnings are the most common disciplinary actions, but there are cases where suspension is necessary. It's important for managers to be consistent when it comes to taking disciplinary action. Documenting these details allows companies to ensure their managers are holding all employees to the same standards and taking the same actions for cases of misconduct. If the incident is not isolated and has occurred before, that should also be noted in the most current incident documentation. Providing these details allows companies to empower their managers and the information that they need to take action when employees repeat behaviors that require disciplinary action. There are a few action items that follow documenting discipline. Once the documentation is completed, it should be signed by the direct supervisor and the employee. This allows managers to go back and reference that employees agreed that they were made aware that they broke a rule or policy. And when managers must take disciplinary action on repeat behaviors, this information can be crucial. Having the record that the employee has been made aware of the behaviors allows managers to enforce, in unfortunate circumstances, things like suspension or termination when necessary. I work with a lot of HR people that tell me that a manager will come to them and say, I want to terminate this employee. And when asked what documentation they have to back up that request, they unfortunately have no record of the employee's misconduct. This puts the HR person in a hard position, as termination might be the right step. But without documentation, including details of the employee's misconduct, it can make for a stressful and complicated termination. Signed records that include the employee's signature notating that they were aware of the prior misconduct gives managers and HR leaders the details they need to do their job efficiently and effectively. One of the most important steps when documenting discipline is creating an action plan for employees based on their misconduct. This action plan should include what policy was broken and the consequence for no change behavior, whether that is a verbal or written warning or suspension. There should be a timeline set for when the employee's behavior must reflect the acceptable policy or rule. Without a timeline, there is no expectation of change behavior, which can lead to difficulties stating the consequences of failure to demonstrate improvement. Another great thing to add to the action plan are forward-focused goals. That way, the employee can work towards a goal to create a positive behavioral change. This shows the employee that the leadership team wants to help develop them professionally and is invested in their success. Taking action on setting timelines and expectations for change behavior can be crucial when it comes to dealing with employee misconduct. I'm sure that it comes to no surprise to our group here today that most employees dread their annual performance review. And I think that documenting year-round performance could change that. Employees who know where they stand with their performance because they've been engaged with its progress throughout the year know that the ratings from their leaders are going to be based on their performance throughout the entire review cycle. This gives employees the confidence to participate in reviews, knowing that their efforts are being considered. Documenting performance year-round allows managers to provide a more accurate feedback, resulting in a more effective performance management process. With that, you will find managers who have the details they need to reward and recognize employees that are reaching and surpassing their goals. This allows managers to engage with their employees and for employees to feel a sense of value and appreciation from leadership. Documenting employee performance can also help managers and leaders avoid common rating errors like the recency error I mentioned earlier. This error occurs when raters can only remember an employee's recent behaviors and performance, and when rating them, it's only based off a portion of the review cycle. If you would like to learn more about the common performance rating errors, check out the Lightwork YouTube channel for a quick overview of those errors and how you can help managers avoid them. With that, I want to talk about some of the tools in Lightwork performance that can be used to document employee behavior and discipline. The first tool that I would like to cover in Lightwork performance that can assist with documenting is Lightwork journals. This tool allows managers and leaders to record employee misconduct details like date, time, and summary of the incident, and include any applicable attachments. You can also include details like title and type to help organize the information, as well as mark it private so it's not accessible to the employee. You can also document things like employee achievements within Lightwork journals. notating the impact that the employee's efforts had in the overall success of the company or for their team. This tool is also a great way to keep track of the recognition delivered to employees when a goal was reached. This can help managers stay consistent when rewarding and recognizing employees. Light work journals are also a great tool to use when documenting regular check-ins with employees, documenting any obstacles the employees are currently experiencing, or even an employee's request for additional support. Light work journals provides managers and leaders the tools they need to document details needed to engage and develop their employees. Next in light work performance is the ability to track and monitor goals. Employees and managers can set personal and professional goals that can include details that allow employees to stay engaged and accountable. When setting goals in light work, you can include a start and due date for each goal, allowing employees to prioritize their efforts with the expectation of a set timeline. With the ability to include detailed tasks on each goal, light work performance allows managers to have a record of a clear path set for each employee's success. Providing these detailed tasks can help set expectations and promote accountability. Documenting and maintaining goals can set the foundation for an employee's success. It can also promote engagement with managers and employees, which in turn promotes a healthy work culture based off of communicated expectations. Next, we have one of my favorite tools in light work performance, which is the ability to provide surveys. I think this tool is a great way to gather and document important information about employee experience and work culture. Surveys can help engage and communicate with employees. Leaders can gather valuable information like how an employee prefers to receive feedback. This information can help promote a more positive dynamic between employees and their leaders. Managers cannot be expected to know everything about their team, so gathering and documenting details about how to best support their employees can allow managers to lead their team more effectively. Surveys can also help managers document an employee's request for additional support or professional development. Having a record of these requests can allow leaders to guide their managers' efforts and empower their employees with the tools they need to succeed. I talked a little about the value of gathering insight on the employee experience and how referencing that documentation can assist with the dynamic of an employee and their leaders. So now I want to cover some of the questions that can be included in surveys to help document an employee's experience from the beginning. First up, we have some examples of questions that can be included on a 30-day new hire survey. Engaging employees about their experience from the beginning can help managers document things like employees' concerns or suggestions. Being able to go back and reference this information for new hires can give insight into internal processes like onboarding. When companies invest in tools to communicate with new employees, it sets a foundation for open and ongoing communication. Engaging with new employees to understand what they might be struggling with or might need clarification on can make all the difference when it comes to training an employee and the success of that effort. If employees are expressing that their job isn't what they expected, or they don't feel as though their training is equipping them with the skills that they need to do their job correctly, it can lead to things like high turnover rates due to miscommunication. Making the effort to document and take action on new hire requests and suggestions can create a work environment that's based off of communication and collaboration. Next, we have some examples of a 60-day new hire survey, or some questions for it, I guess. Engaging new employees in 30-day intervals to gather insight into their experience can promote employee retention. New hire surveys allow employees to communicate with their leadership team, providing the open communication that employees need to engage with their own success. Documenting an employee's initial thoughts and feelings about their position can provide managers the details that they need to develop a team of employees that feel confident in their work. Giving employees the opportunity to express their need for additional support provides managers with the information they need to engage with employees in the most effective way. I know as a new hire in a previous job that I would have really appreciated the ability to communicate with my managers in a formal way that there were aspects of my job I needed additional support with instead of being micromanaged. And honestly, I think those managers meant well, but they didn't have the information that they needed to help me the way that would have been the most effective. Another valuable piece of a new hire survey is its ability to gather information on company culture. Knowing whether new employees feel as though they're a good fit on your team can give insight into how current employees are engaging with new employees and what aspects of your company's culture might need to be addressed. Documenting this information in an effort to grow and develop employees can be the key to a company's success. As I mentioned before, the effort to engage new employees can help with employee retention. And here are some examples of some 90-day new hire survey questions. I think these are some important questions when it comes to gathering and documenting information about company culture. Making an effort to understand what employees are experiencing shows employees that companies are invested in providing a positive work environment. Knowing whether employees feel as though they can easily communicate with their leaders can be crucial to a company's growth. Companies that are experiencing a high turnover rate in one department might need to be asking the employees in that department about the work relationship that they have with their manager. This can give leadership insight into what might need to be addressed in that department in an effort to lower the turnover rate. Allowing employees to document their experience with their leaders can provide the details needed to invest in professional development for managers to better lead their team. The last few years have had a focus on the work-life balance as people have changed jobs and industries. Knowing how employees feel about the work-life balance that they're currently experiencing can give leaders the insight that they need to better help employees balance their work and personal life in order to retain them and to provide an environment that new hires can embrace. When it comes to engaging with employees that are not new to the company or even tenured employees, it's important to be proactive when it comes to communication. You don't want to learn about their concerns and suggestions as they're walking out the door. Scheduled quarterly check-ins are a great way to show employees that their opinions are valued and appreciated. Giving employees the opportunity to request additional support or share suggestions can be the key to a company's success. Employees are a company's greatest asset, and their insight can be what a company needs to make changes that allow them to grow. Documenting employees' suggestions and concerns shows employees that their contributions are valued and allows them to engage and commit to their work. As we wrap up here today, I want to review how you can reference documentation when participating in regular touch points with employees. As I mentioned earlier, documenting goals can be a great way to keep employees engaged and accountable. When you meet with employees to talk about what they're working on, it can be very helpful to review their current goals and tasks. This way you can ensure that they don't need any assistance adhering to the timeline set for those goals. This is also a great time to go back and review the goals that employees have reached. This can help motivate employees and give managers an opportunity to engage with employees in a positive way. In these touchpoint conversations, an employee might express a need for additional resources or classes in an effort to develop themselves professionally. Documenting this request is important as managers can go back at the end of the review cycle and reference an employee's efforts to grow in their position and take that into consideration when rating their performance. This is a great example of documentation helping identifying emerging leaders. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed our presentation and can take some of these tips back for documenting employees' behavior and performance. Please join us for our next webinar. Be on the lookout for an invitation for that to learn more about the tools that you can use to engage and empower employees. Also, be sure to check us out on social media, and if you'd like to learn more about Lightwork performance, please feel free to reach out to our team on the Lightwork website.